Heartwarming update. Shout out to ML football. Browns Pro Bowler Shedeur Sanders visited a young man battling both sickle cell disease and cancer to lift his spirits a couple of months ago. This week, that fan has beaten cancer, graduated, attended prom, and continues to inspire. God is good. Can we get an amen? While the haters are sitting there lying about Shedeur Sanders being a problem within the locker room, the players don't like him, the coaches don't like him, yet me and G. Bush keep dropping those.
A kid visited a young man fighting cancer and sickle cell at the same time, just to lift his spirits. No cameras rolling for clout, no announcement, and beat cancer, walked across a graduation stage, and made it to prom. Now here's the part that'll get you. The guy who visited now, his name is Shedeur Sanders. And depending on who you ask, he's either the future of the Cleveland Browns or the biggest distraction they've ever had. That's the thing nobody's telling you. Behind all the noise, behind all the debate, there's a real person. And that person just quietly changed a kid's life, while half the sports media was busy writing him off. Let's actually talk about what's going on here.
I show you guys G. Bush break down the coach scenario. I'm going to show you guys the actual teammates of Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders was out there doing something for Nike. Shout out to Well Off Media with Jerry Jeudy. Now, I'm still on the edge with Jerry Jeudy. I've been giving him a hard time, and I'm going to continually do so until he proves me otherwise as far as how he's been towards Shedeur Sanders. But he was out there hanging out with Shedeur and seems to be enjoying himself along with KC Concepcion, rookie wide receiver who just got there this year, speaking out about Shedeur Sanders.
Casey, we're talking about the wide receiver group, but of course, one of the big conversations around the Browns is going to be who's the starting quarterback going to be? Is it going to be Shedeur? Is it going to be Deshaun? From a guy who caught balls from both of them all off season, how do you think that competition has gone?
It's been going amazing. Both of those guys, are amazing people, amazing teammates,
Shedeur Sanders didn't walk into the NFL quietly. He walked in with a name. A father who built one of the most talked about programs in college football history, in a target on his back the size of the state of Colorado. When you're Coach Prime's son, people are watching, and not always because they want to see you win. Coming out of college, the conversation was never just about whether he could play. It became something else entirely, something louder, something personal. Analysts were picking apart his mechanics before he even threw a single pass in a professional setting. Draft boards had him all over the place. Some teams loved him, some passed. And the ones who passed, some of them will probably be answering questions about that decision for years. He landed in Cleveland, and right away, the doubts followed him there too. Cleveland is a complicated football city. Passionate fans, high expectations, and a media market that doesn't exactly have the reputation for being gentle. So when Shedeur showed up as a backup, or at best a competitor for the starting spot, the story was already being written before he took a single snap.
I'm blown away. I think Shedeur has really good vision of the field. He'll say things in practice sometimes. I'll be like, what did you get there? Or I'll see something on the field that doesn't resonate with me. And then when I go back and watch it on video, he might be throwing the deep post versus post safety look in what is maybe a jog through type of tempo, but then sure enough I see that the post safety sat on the crosser and gave us the post over the top, and so his vision with his work ethic has been good to see.
And here's where it gets interesting, because while certain reporters were spending their time suggesting the locker room had issues, the teammates weren't feeling him, that there was tension. Players were literally out here hanging out with him for Nike content, laughing, joking, looking like two guys who actually enjoy being around each other. To the team this year, said the quarterback competition has been amazing, not decent, not manageable, amazing. He called both quarterbacks amazing people, amazing teammates, amazing talent. That's not a guy reading from a script. That's a first-year player who's catching passes from these guys every single day in practice, telling you what he actually sees. But that nuance doesn't get clicks, does it? That's the thing G. Bush pointed out, and it's worth actually sitting with for a second. 20 years ago, a reporter answered to their editor, maybe their producer, a small team of people who held them accountable to facts. Today, reporters are watching their mentions every hour. They see the fan reactions, the quote tweets, the comments calling them out, and instead of adjusting the take based on... Because now it's not about being right, it's about winning the argument. And once you're in that cycle, the player stops being a person. He becomes ammunition. Every practice clip becomes evidence. Every rumor gets amplified. Every positive development gets ignored or buried.
Times on the football field, Shedeur Sanders sees something, whether it's in a zone or a coverage or something, and he throws a route that may not even be the primary target. The coach says, I don't know why you threw that. Why'd you throw that? Shedeur said, I saw X, Y, and Z. They get into the film room. Coach looks at the tape with Shedeur. True indeed. The underneath route was taken away by the coverage. Shedeur anticipates goes up.
And that, right there, is why some people don't know the real Shedeur Sanders story. The Browns QB coach sat down and said something that should have stopped the conversation cold. He talked about moments in practice where Shedeur would throw to a receiver, and the coach would think, wait, why did he go there? That wasn't the play design. That wasn't the read progression most guys follow. And then they'd go back to the film room, and sure enough, Shedeur had seen something in the coverage, a safety rotating, a linebacker cheating, and he'd processed it in real time, faster than the coach could even register, and threw to the right. His field vision, his football IQ, the ability to see things before they happen. That same thing independently. Two different coaches, two different programs, two different coaching philosophies, both landed in the same place when they described what Shedeur Sanders does on a football field. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. That's who he is. Now think about what that means in the context of everything else.
The media effect. 20 years ago, journalists mostly answered to editors. Today, they are also responding to fan quote tweets, YouTube clips, thousands of comments every single day. Does that pressure change coverage? I'd argue yes. When fans fight back, does the coverage change?
Here's a guy who came into the league with more eyes on him than almost any quarterback in his draft class. A guy who was placed deep on a depth chart, who had to scratch for every single rep. Who, according to the people around him, was out there running on his own before anyone else showed up, lifting on his own, pulling a receiver aside on off days and saying, hey, run this route for me. I need to work on this. No coaches standing over him, no cameras watching. Just a guy who wanted to be ready. That's not the behavior of a distraction. That's the behavior of someone who is genuinely hungry. Someone who understands that the moment you stop working is the moment someone takes your spot. And in Cleveland right now, the competition is real. The starting job isn't handed to anyone. Every rep counts, every decision matters, and Shedeur Sanders is treating it exactly that way. If you've been rocking with this story and you want to keep up with the real side of what's happening in Cleveland, hit that subscribe button, because the mainstream coverage isn't giving you this. What you're watching right now, this is the version they don't want to sit down and build out. Back to the bigger picture. The criticism of Shedeur Sanders has never fully made sense when you look at the actual evidence. The people closest to him, teammates, coaches, training staff, they keep saying the same things. He's a good person. He's a hard worker. He's a smart quarterback. The locker room isn't divided. The guys aren't walking on eggshells. The energy is competitive, yeah, but that's what you want in a training camp battle for the starting position. What you're seeing instead is a media cycle that built a narrative early and has been defending that narrative ever since, because reversing course would mean admitting something was wrong, and nobody wants to do that publicly. So instead, every positive development gets minimized, every supporting quote from a teammate gets overlooked, every heartwarming moment, like a guy fighting cancer finally beating it after a visit from a player who showed up just to sit with him, gets half a tweet and a scroll past. That's the reality of modern sports coverage, and it's worth saying out loud. Shedeur Sanders is not a finished product. No young quarterback is. There will be moments in Cleveland this season where he makes mistakes. There will be throws that hang in the air too long, decisions under pressure that don't go the way you draw them up on a whiteboard. That's football. That's every quarterback who ever played this game at the highest level. The question isn't whether he'll be perfect. The question is whether he'll keep growing. The criticism of Shedeur Sanders has never fully made sense when you look at the actual evidence. The people closest to him, teammates, coaches, training staff, they keep saying the same things. He's a good person. He's a hard worker. He's a smart quarterback. The locker room. What you're seeing instead is a media cycle that built a narrative early and has been defending that narrative ever since, because reversing course would mean admitting something was wrong, and nobody wants to do that publicly. So instead, every positive development, heartwarming moment, like a guy fighting cancer finally beating it after a visit from a player who showed up just to sit with him, gets half a tweet and a scroll past. That's the reality of modern sports coverage, and it's worth saying out loud. Shedeur Sanders is not a finished product. No young quarterback is. There will be moments in Cleveland this season where he makes mistakes. There will be throws that hang in the air too long, decisions under pressure that don't go the way you draw them up on a whiteboard. That's football. That's every quarterback who ever played this game at the highest level. The question isn't whether he'll be perfect.